Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to Search Tools for Power Users at Google. This is part one. We will have a two-part video series dealing with this topic. And this video represents some online instruction as part of TED121, the Educational Technology course at our university. In this video, let's take a look at Google from the ground up and then lay the groundwork for doing more power searching at this tool. Let's start off with looking at some Google quick answer searches and some of the Google foundations. And then let's look at some specialty search tools that Google offers. And finally, in this video, let's look for just standard searching for words on the page, but using some tools that maybe you don't already use. Now, if you like this video, don't miss the second video, and that one is going to show us tools to support searching for words that are not even found on the web page. Before we get into some of the more power user aspects of Google, let's start off with some of the basics to make sure everybody's on the same page, so to speak. So let's start off with some of the Google tabs and learn how to use the tool from the ground up. First of all, this bar where we search officially is known as the omnibar. And the reason for this is not only can you type words in here, you can drag graphics in here and do a whole lot more with it. So just in case you read this anywhere, it's called the omnibar. Now we've got tabs up top. If I do Control T, I can open up a new tab, or of course I can also open up a new tab by hitting the plus sign here, plus button, next to the last open tab. Now I'm going to close this one down. I was just looking at my page, my search page at Misericordia, and then I closed it. If I do, so Control T opens up a new tab. If I can do Control Shift T, it opens up the last tab with something in it other than a blank page that you were at. Oh, how helpful is this? Because how many times do you find that, oh, I just closed something by mistake? And you can easily reopen. It's Control, Shift, and then T to reopen a recently closed tab. Now you can organize your tabs. I'm going to go and open up another tab here. So I've got several at this point. You can organize these. You can simply pick them up and move them, which is helpful to know. In this case, I just moved it right out of my tab list there into a separate window. So I can move things around. So I'll just move this back a little bit. I could drag things around. If I right-click over any of the tabs, notice that there are a lot of options here. Many times people don't get to take a look at what these are all about. First of all, you notice it says you can pin a tab. So if we pin, that means that this particular tab will become the first tab, and it's always going to be open when you open Google. You can also mute a tab. You ever find that all of a sudden, there's videos playing and sounds are playing and music will start playing from a website? You can mute it by simply pressing that, selecting that option. Also, you can close, or you can close all other tabs except this one that you're in, which is helpful because many times we end up having a whole lot of tabs open at the same time. Or from this point over, we can close all the tabs to the right of this tab. Now we can also, we can bookmark. Notice I have some bookmarks right up here in this bar, in the bookmark bar. Now to do that, I'm going to go over in this bar up top where it shows the URL, and I'm going to grab the icon that's there. And I'm going to drag it over here into my bookmark bar. Now, this is helpful because now I can always have access to this very quickly and easily. But let me show you another trick with this too. If I right-click over this, I can edit this. Because notice that's taking up a lot of room right now. Can I truncate this? Can I make this a little bit smaller? Could I just put search here, for example, and save that? Look how much less space that takes up. That will save me a lot of room, and I can actually put more information here if I wanted to. And as you can see, you can also create various other things, like here's my advising tab. I can create folders. And here I've got 2 Misericordia sites that I always use when I'm advising. And again, it organizes and it also saves space so I can put more helpful information up there as well. One other piece I'd like to show, let me just go over here for a moment and let me go to the 3 dots that open up on the right hand side that open up the menu in Google and in the Chrome. And what I'm going to do here is I'd like to go into incognito mode. Wow, look how different that looks. Well, what's so helpful about this? Well, number one, it's not going to track where you've been. Now, this can be helpful, especially in schools as teachers, because we want to not be being barraged with different advertisements because somebody is tracking our activity online. So by doing this, by entering the incognito mode, right here we're not going to be tracked at all, which is good. You'll notice that it states right here when you go incognito, these various things are deterred and will not be saved, which is very helpful. The third-party cookies are not going to be there, and that's how it's going to stop that advertisement, or at least deter it severely. Number two, if you're in a school setting, it's good to know if you have students doing something, for example, like even on our campus, and people will log into their email when they're going to make a presentation in a class, and then they're doing all of this, they're opening their email, they're downloading the presentation and so on. After they give the presentation, you've got all this material open, and they certainly want to log out properly, and you know what's better? It's not incognito tab. Just close the tab, and then that material is all gone, and nothing will be saved. So that alone is very, very helpful for you working with your students. So those are some of the basics of Google before we even get into any of the powerful stuff. Now let's take a quick look at finding some quick answers using some really great tools that are available in helper apps available through Google. So I'm going to start off by looking for the weather. So I'm going to type weather, and I'm going to say Dallas, PA. Oh, look at that. Right in the top of the search area, notice it's saying weather, Dallas, PA. This is an indicator that Google is about to use a helper application. Look at that. These are not regular hits. Now, there are hits underneath here, regular search hits. Look at this material up here. You can see that this is a helper application, and it makes me feel like I'm a really, really great searcher. But the bottom line is, Google is a great search engine. So even very young children who are not very versed in search tools and using them effectively can have their self-esteem boosted as they find this good information. But realize Google is using your location and information that you type up here in this omnibar to try to help you in the process. Look at this tool, precipitation, wind, and other kinds of helpful information. Let's look at a couple others like this too. For example, if I wanted to access a dictionary, I'm going to say define, and notice it's trying to find things I've already talked about, the word weather and climate and things of that nature. But I'm going to say I want to define the word broadband. So here we have again, and it's Google doing the job very effectively for us. And so it's pulling something from a dictionary, and it's going to tell you where it pulls it from. You have access to other definitions and other translations, and also you'll notice this appears that will say, this tool, what does broadband mean? Now just keep in mind that this information that appears here is going to be information from various websites, and you may have to verify this. These are not like bona fide facts coming out of Google. But up here, this is coming right from a dictionary. Again, these are helpful applications that they give you quick answers to something. Let's say I just want to do some quick math. So I'm going to say 3, and I'm going to say times. There's the star for multiply, and I'm just going to add, I'm going to add some number in here. So look at this. Not only does it give me the answer, but it also opens up a calculator because it knows what I'm trying to do, and maybe I want to do some more things like that. Another quick answer that would be helpful would be something like, I'm looking at $3 in, oh, and now notice all that it's suggesting here, in rupees and pesos. I'm going to say in euros. Not only do I get the answer, but I get current information and also a calculator app that's going to help me do more calculations in this direction. So many of these things we've kind of just stumbled into, but realize it's not that we're better searchers because of this, it's because Google is an excellent, excellent engine. If I wanted to type some type of sports team, I'm going to start typing Dallas Cowboys. Notice it's coming up here. That's an indicator that that's going to be a helper app. Look at all this information that's already drawn together by Google. So it's not that I searched well, but rather Google prepared that for me already. Type the name of a celebrity. So I'm going to say Elvis. When I say Elvis, not only do I get hits, but I also get, look at all this collated information over here. Information that really is probably what I'm looking for on that particular celebrity. Great search engine. Let's look at a couple other quick things that teachers can use. If I want to get the time, I can type clock, and there's my time. And also, many times as teachers are teaching like social studies, they might want to say something like time in another city. And here it is, so I get that immediately. Another thing that teachers can use in terms of clocks would be a timer to help us calculate and gauge where we're at any point in time in an activity. So in our class, so I can say 5-minute timer, and look at that. Not only does it bring it up, but it starts it immediately. And we also have, in addition to the timer, also a stopwatch. Again, it's a helper activity that Google brings about here for us. And one other thing, keep in mind that you can also search. I'm going to go right back to the main Google here. You can search by voice. So if I wanted to do something like this, time in Juneau, Alaska.
The time in Juneau, Alaska is 4:53 a.m.
So notice that Google will respond with a voice response for you if you ask that question or provide those search terms through the microphone. How great is this? Google is an exceptional search engine, and we didn't even start any of the power stuff yet. Now let's take a look at some of the Google specialty searches. So the first specialty we'll take a look at is images. Now, many people will click into images in the upper right-hand corner of Google, and then they'll type something. So, for example, I could type something like Misericordia University, and then we'll find all kinds of images and categories of those images up top. Now, a lot of people have done that, but also notice like where there's a microphone for input, there's also a camera input available too. So realize when you're mobile, you could take your mobile device, when you're out on the road somewhere, you could take a picture of something and search it. Now, if you're a traveler, like I am, that's very helpful. If you're standing in front of some monument and you'd like to know what is that monument all about, what's its history, and tell us more about it, you can use the camera as an input. You can do other things here too. For example, drag and drop image search. I'm going to click back into Google. To clear it, I'm going to click into images. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is called the Omni bar. Now, let's show you part of the Omni in this case. I have a folder open with some graphics. I'm going to grab a picture of, so I'm going to drag this picture of the Misericordia University logo. So let me click it. Notice I'm going to drag it, and it goes with me. I'm going to drag it down in the taskbar. I'm going to touch the Google Chrome, and notice, look at that omnibar. Now it's changed. It says drag and drop the image here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to drop it, and now you can see that Google is searching for that graphic. Now it has located that graphic. It's told us some information. It says you can find other sizes of that image, and then it gives us some hits. And the hits include images and also other places where this graphic is found, which is helpful. Now, in addition to this, notice up here, this graphic now in the upper left-hand corner of the omnibar, we're searching for that. If I click on the X up here to clear, I've not cleared that graphic, so I'm still searching for that graphic. Let's say that I'm looking for a transparent version of this graphic so it can fit nicely in the background. Notice that I'm searching for two terms now, that graphic and also the word transparent, and it also will give me hits and other logos and other things and other web pages underneath, but hopefully I will also have access to other versions of this graphic in which we're finding a transparent graphic. Now I'm going to clear out of this. So I'm going to go back to Google, go back into the image just to clear it. And let's say that I'm going to, in fact, before I do that, let me do one more piece here. Let me grab one more graphic out of here. Let me say I found something, and I'm not quite sure. Now, I know this is actually a portion of one of Bernini's famous works. So I'm going to grab this, take it into Google, drop the image. Let's see what Google finds here. Look at that. It has found, it didn't find other sizes of that image, but it has found things that are related to it. And then, as I look down, I find hits that will describe they're hits that will describe things about this. Now again, some of them will be related, some will not, because realize you're sending a picture. In this case, I grabbed a picture that's a part of a bigger work, and Google does its best to locate that information. Now I'm going to close this to clear it, and now I'm going to take one more graphic just for fun. Take a picture of yourself and drag it into the omnibar and see what happens. And you'll find that it's locating different people, and it will locate me in this process. I will be down here. It's also locating other people who Google thinks kind of look like me. I'm not sure if all these people look like me or not, but they're all wearing a suit, they're all wearing a tie, they have a similar background. So it's interesting to see, and it is determined that it looks like I'm a business person. So there's a lot of fun here, and to see how Google is going to interpret, but also it can find, and I will be in the hits. I'm just not going to take the time to roll down and locate all of those. Now let me clear this out, and let's say I'm looking for the Statue of Liberty. Now notice Google is trying to offer me some helpful information here, but I'm looking very specifically for images. So I'm going to click into images. Now I find all kinds of images. Now let's look at a couple of tools that can really help you. The first tool that we're going to take a look at is, I'm going to click, notice the word tools appears under all of this. So I'm going to say tools, and we can look at sizing and color. Let's say that in my presentation as a teacher, I want to have a red background. I have a red, I'm going for the red theme. Let's see if there's any Statue of Liberty graphics that are just highlighting red. And sure enough, there are a lot of them. Look at all of those with red lettering, red sunsets and sunrises and so on, and maybe even with the flag of our country. So we can find some interesting things there. I just wonder if I'm using like a tan or a neutral, is there anything like that? So let me pick up tan and let's see. Oh, there are a lot of them, and look how pleasant they are. They could fit very nicely into a presentation where that's my theme or my background color that I'm using, or a color that I really want to highlight. Now there's certainly, you can see different types and times and so on. Here's another one that's very, very important for teachers to know: usage rights. Notice that when Google pulls together all of these images, they come from all different sources. Some of these are copyright materials that we're looking at, and by rights, we're not supposed to use this without permission from either the author or, in this case, from the photographer or artist. But a lot of people subscribe to the Creative Commons license. Instead of having a copyright on their work, they say, I'm going to use the newer Creative Commons license, which will give more rights for people to use these materials free of charge. So it's legal for us to use these. So if I click into Creative Commons, these are things that we can use with our students. Now I'm still using the yellow here. I could go back and say any color. And if you go in and say, show me these licenses, then what we find is the number of hits you're going to get will go down. Because if any of these were taken by professional photographers, they're not going to probably likely fall into fair use and be able to be used freely with permission from this artist, without you having to write and request it, or without you having to buy it. And notice, as I roll over, a lot of these are coming up and saying, like this one, for example, a free image. So these are all free image sites. These are all free images that are allowed to be used by teachers or students and so on. So this is very good to use. This is a good thing to use for yourself. And number two, it's a good thing to model for your students, that you're concerned about fair use and not falling into a situation where you do not respect the copyright rights of the authors or the artists. Now, one more thing. When I'm looking at specialties, I can also go, in this case I'm going to switch out of let me go to main Google here. I'm not going to look for an image now, but I'm going to look for something dealing with Shakespeare. And of course Google is trying to pull up those helping applications. But let's say that I want to look up books in particular. So after I type a term in Google, here I can look up images, I can look up books, news for that object, whatever it is that we're searching for, videos, which is helpful because this is even easier than searching for videos on YouTube. You can do the search right here. Let me click on books. Now, if I'm looking further here, notice it's saying any kind of books. Do you want free ebooks from Google? Do you want Google ebooks, which maybe you might have to pay for some? I'm going to look for free ones. And again, there are many other, like here, what form of document you're looking for. Is it a certain time period that you're looking for, and so on. So look at all of the information you can find. Google is just stacked full of very helpful information for power users. Now, let's start looking for words that are found on web pages. Let's look at some power user tools. Now, everyone searches by typing some words or phrases here in the Omnibar. But let's look at how you can improve on that. So I'm going to look for something like special education. Now, at this point, I'm going to use as one gauge, and it's only one gauge. It's not always the best gauge. But I'm going to look at the number of hits that we receive from these different search terms, the different searches that we perform. So I'm going to say special education, just take a look at what's coming up. Now realize here's Google doing the good things for us. Here's a special application over here to the right. Here's some information about it over here, about my subject. Here they try to pull some things, so collate some things together here for us. And then there's hits underneath. And they're even trying to find things that maybe I might be interested in according to my location. So for us, for me, it's finding in the Dallas, Wilkes-Barre area in Pennsylvania, because that's where I'm located. But now, let me look at the number of hits. So I'm looking at, looks like 6 billion hits here. Would it be nice if I could find the words special and education together. In other words, when I just type the word special space education, Google is looking for those two words. Somewhere on these web pages, those two words will exist, but they may not exist side by side. Now, realize Google is a smart search engine. It will try to locate those and pull them up in the ranking first. But you're still going to look for the word education somewhere on the page, the word special somewhere on the page. Let me hook these two words together, similar to in Disney World, if you ever rode on the monorail, they have several cars and they couple them together. The coupling takes place here through the quotations. So if I put a quote in front of a word and or phrase, and then a quote to end that, watch the difference. Instead of 6 billion, we now have 58 million. So billions down to millions. Now still, Google's trying to be helpful. Here's some of the good information right up top. But when I get into my hits, I'm now going to start finding things that deal more specifically with the word special and education, because those two words will be coupled together on the page. They'll be found together. And at first, it seems like a very simple tool, but it's a very powerful tool. If I look for the word George and the word Washington, I realize, first of all, Google is being Google, and it's trying to find George Washington material for us, figuring that's what I'm looking for. And it's probably right. But instead of 1 billion or bazillion, whatever that huge number is there, I can pare this down and try to get rid of some of the hits that are just not going to be relevant to me. By the way, since notice Google being Google here, when I put the quotation in, at first it's thinking, is this searcher looking for inches or feet? And it's trying to tell me George Washington's height. How great is that? So George Washington in quotes, now from bazillions of hits, we're down to 50 million. You know why? Because the word Washington and the word George were somewhere on the page, but they weren't necessarily found together. I could have found a page that was dealing with somebody named Washington who lived on George Avenue or something like that. Now, to show you that this is very powerful, let me misspell the word George. I'm going to call it gorge. Gorge and Washington. Now, first of all, there's Google being Google. Do you mean George Washington? Yeah, probably I do. But notice, here's gorge followed by the word Washington in the very first hit. And the word, so on this next page then, the word gorge and Washington, and here it is, gorge followed by the word Washington. So this quotation is a very powerful tool because it will find those two words side by side. Let me give you one more example. Say Pennsylvania Department of Education. Now that sounds like a very specific search, and sure enough, here's Google helping us out and pulling right to the top of this list what we're probably looking for. But it still has found a whole bunch of pages here, because I'm looking at 450 million. Now, probably not all those are really going to be helpful to me, 450 million. Let's say that I just go up to here and put quotations around that. Now we're down to less than a million. Now look at that, 400 some million down to less than a million. So that means that there was a lot of extra stuff in there, a lot of junk basically, a lot of noise in the system that's not going to help us out. Now how else can we use this? Well, when we're searching for places, like if I'm looking for Niagara Falls, well that's a proper name with two words in it. So I'm going to put the quotes around that. If I'm looking for a book, and I'm going to use this one first without quotes to show you how powerful this is. Green eggs and ham. Now there's Google being Google, pulling it up first, and many people are duped into thinking, wow, we're extra good searchers right now. Yeah, but we're not, because there's 189 million. How about if I put the quotes around this? 189 million goes way down to 2 million, almost 3 million. So huge difference. Those quotes make a big difference. Here's another way you can use it. Let's say I know something, but I don't know all of it. There's a speech. It's four score. Oh, look, I'm getting some ideas here as I look at what other people have typed. Now, just keep in mind, other people have typed this. It's not always accurate, but I do see some accuracy. 7 years ago. What is that? What's it from? And sure enough, here's Google helping, especially when I help and work with Google and put the quotes around. It says, oh, well, that's from the Gettysburg Address, and here's some information and background before it even gives me the hits that are a result of my searches. If I'm looking for, let's say, from a song, I'm thinking something Billy Joel, sing us a song, something, sing us a song. You're the piano man. I remember that now. Sing us a song, you're the piano man. If I just type the word, I need to type a word that it's going to search for the thing that I'm looking for. I'm looking for words of a song. Well, I know that people who write songs, they call them lyrics. So I'm going to say, sing us. I better put the word song because I put it in quotes here because it's going to look for that literally. Sing us a song and lyrics. And sure enough, here's Google helping us out since I'm cooperating with Google using this tool. There it is. Now I'm ready for karaoke on Friday night. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. So now I have the words. How great is that? Because many times we remember parts, but not the whole thing. We're not quite sure what we're looking at. So this is a very powerful tool. And let me do one last example of this. Let's say that we're looking at something that we're searching for is maybe like how to ski. Now keep in mind that when we're searching, we're always practicing, we're always kind of like gambling because we're trying different things. There's no one perfect way to find the responses that we're looking for. Say I'm going to learn how to ski. Could I put in quotes, learn how to ski? I could. Now, when I do that, I'm getting all kinds of help, and maybe that's all I'm going to need is what's here. But when I say learn how to ski, and you know, there's a lot of helpful information here, I'm taking a chance, though, because I'm looking only for these 4 words found in a sentence together on a page. So maybe that's not my best search. Maybe ski, maybe I should say here, without quotes, learn and ski. And if I do that, I'm getting more hits. Now, sometimes we feel really great when we're getting fewer hits. And really, it is a good feeling. In many cases, that's great to do it. In this case, if I put the quotes in, I might have actually excluded a lot of helpful information that maybe I really wanted to get. This next tool can be very helpful when you're searching for words on a page and you're getting words that you don't want to get because they're interfering with your search. So for example, let's say I'm searching for dolphins. Well, look what's coming up first, Miami Dolphins. Well, I'm teaching and I'm not, all the sports stuff is coming up. Well, where is the regular dolphins, the mammal, the animal? So I'm going through, and I have to scroll to the bottom, and then here they're saying dolphins in the ocean. So you can see that other people have searched like this and got frustrated because they were pulling up Miami Dolphins material. No offense to the Miami Dolphins. Let's say that I put a minus sign. Now, when I put a minus sign, I have to, now this is a Google-only search tool. When I put a minus sign, I have to touch the next letter to that minus sign in order to make it work. So let me think for a moment. What kinds of words would be likely found on a Miami Dolphins website that if I were to remove those words, I would probably get rid of those pages and just find the fish? So let me think of something. Well, there I'm looking at maybe the word football might appear on a page. Let me try that. Oh, right away, dolphins, Wikipedia, wonders of wildlife. I think I've accomplished what I needed already. But let me try another one. What other words might be found on a Miami Dolphins page? About NFL. That's probably likely to be on the page somewhere. And sure enough, once again, I'm finding the things that I want to. Now, notice that I put the NFL, the N is touching the minus sign. If I put a space before it, it's not going to work at all. And it's going to bomb. Look at that. Immediately the dolphins come up, and it's not the kind of dolphins that I'm looking for. So notice the minus has to touch. Now it's working well. Now, many times for sports teams, that's one of the big things that happens. But we also find anything that deals with products or anything to be selling. If I say Jaguar, for example, well, the first thing that's going to pop up is Jaguar cars. What kind of word appears on a page with a Jaguar car that maybe I could take out that word? I think the word car itself, minus car. Now notice I'm not conceptually saying about cars. I'm saying the word car, I think, will appear on the page, and I'm taking it out. Oh, sure enough, when I minus the word car, I'm finding all kinds of materials about endangered species and animals, and that's just what I'm looking for. Another thing, even when I do find what I'm looking for, sometimes I'll find maybe a site that's selling Jaguar pins or other memorabilia or other artifacts, something that, well, I'm not, as a teacher, I'm not looking to buy these things. I'm looking for Jaguar information to teach to my class. Now think for a moment, and this could happen in any subject area. What kinds of words appear likely on a web page that are going to sell or attempt to sell at you? What kinds of words are out there? How about if I put the word minus? Notice I'm going to put a second minus here in a second word. Could I put minus the word Visa? That would probably work. What other words are guaranteed to be on every page that's trying to sell? How about minus tax? How about minus cart, as in shopping cart? Cost, price, anything like that. Again, keep in mind, we're gambling, we're experimenting, we're trying, because there is no one perfect way to do this. We try. If it doesn't work, we try something else. So the minus sign can be a very helpful tool to get rid of things that are clouding your searches. So as a quick review, in this video, we took a look at Google from the ground up. We looked at quick answer searches. We looked at specialty search tools. We also looked for adding some special tools that will help you when you search for words on a web page, which is typically what people do, but again, using some tools that you might not have used before. Don't miss part 2 of this video presentation, where we look at searching off the page. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.